We are with Matt Smiley. He is the outreach coordinator for the Farmer Veteran Coalition based in Davis. And Matt, as I understand it, you did your military service in the Army. Tell us a little bit about where and when you served.
Yeah, so I was in the Army from 2004 to 2008. I was a combat medic and a paratrooper, and I deployed to Iraq for 15 months, and then I also did rescue work during Hurricane Katrina for about 2 months.
Holy Toledo. Now, how are you able to apply, obviously, the medic part of it, but your combat experience to a disaster response?
Yeah, so when we were in a disaster response, basically we did is rescue work and stuff like that. So we go out in Zodiac boats, get people, bring them to the evacuation center. I was also involved in triaging patients, who needs to get out of here first. We did ride-alongs with civilian EMT and paramedics to help them while also providing them protection in that situation. We did a little bit of vaccines too because the water was horrible and stuff like that, so they're worried about people getting sick. So that's pretty much what I spent most of my time doing in the hurricane disaster relief stuff. So.
Now, I want you to feel free to share whatever you're comfortable sharing, but
Yeah.
for those of us who never even would dream of going to a place like Iraq, and you're talking about serving in a combat capacity over there, what is that like?
It's pretty surreal. Yeah, it's pretty hard to explain, but the mind and your situation, you get into very like survival mode. So in a way, there's a lot of bad things about it. Obviously, some traumatic experiences, and I think most vets who go to combat deal with these things. But I also like to focus on some of the really good stuff too. Like, I always, when people ask me about it, I say it's how ironic it is to see the best people have to offer when you're in probably one of the worst situations ever. And what I mean by that is the people I served with, the way they look out for each other, the way they work together, how the way things happen. It's almost like you get to this point where you're communicating without actually communicating. And that experience was that was a changer for me. I guess I've been kind of chasing that ever since because I like that interaction and relationship. So it's very unique in a lot of ways.
And as I understand it, you essentially did double duty because you were doing, for somebody again who's inexperienced, the standard day-to-day military service, and then you'd come back and do your medic duties.
Yeah, so the way it worked when I was deployed is I would either go out on mission with the infantry guys, and then when we would come back, we still had to cover the aid station because it's like a little hospital. It has to be open 24/7. So that's everything from everyday sick call patients to a lot of things. We was on a trauma team where you get patients coming in from outside, like Iraqis and stuff like that. So it was definitely eventful and long days and no days off. So yeah.
How was your transition back to civilian life?
I had a really hard time coming back when I first came back. Just multiple reasons. Being around a lot of death and a lot of patients. I was very young when I went. I turned 21 over in Iraq and stuff like that. And then another huge thing for me coming back was two things. I was a paratrooper. I went to, they call it the City Triangle of Death, very serious area. And the skills I had and the teamwork I brought to the table was really valued. And when I came back, it's not really, you go into the civilian sector in certain jobs and it's not as teamwork oriented. It's more focused on, you and your career and things like that. So I had a really hard time with that, not being in that kind of close, tight-knit camaraderie and brotherhood environment. And then also too, like my skills didn't necessarily translate that well when I came back into the civilian world and entered some retail jobs and things like that. So,
well, and the part of at least the crux of what you do here is helping veterans make that transition into farm life and how the skills and what the work entails in a lot of ways is similar. We'll get into that in a moment, but the first thing I wanted to ask you in that regard is, how did you get into the world of farming?
Actually, it's kind of by accident, I'll say that. So I was working as a seasonal firefighter because that was another job that kind of like gave me that experience a little bit. And so during the off season, I would actually started working as a ranch hand on a family friend's farm, and I was going to community college at the time, and I started to like realize that I was looking forward to going to the farm, and it's not easy work, but I was actually looking forward to going out there. It was quiet. It's nice. There's something about farming and growing vegetables and taking care of livestock. It feels good to create life, and so I just kind of had a bell go off my head. I was like, hey, maybe I'll try farming a little bit. And so the guy I was working with gave me the opportunity to do some market farming, and I did that while I was going to community college. And I really enjoyed it, so I got accepted to UC Davis, and I went into their sustainable agriculture program. And then during that time, I started working here in the office, and then I was also given an opportunity to intern and work at Jacobs Farm, which is a very, very large organic farming company. And so I worked for them for a few years. Really enjoyed it, really loved it, and so now I'm basically what I do is try and provide that experience. It's a decent job, good paying job, and try and give that to other veterans.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I got to ask you where, because the office is in Davis. Where's the farm?
The farm is actually, it's with Jacobs Farm, so it's their land. They sublease it to us, and it's down in San Jose. So
Okay, so quite a ways away.
yeah.
All right, and what do you grow there?
Right now, nothing. So it's seasonal. Yeah.
But generally, I mean,
Yeah. So just basically cucumbers, tomatoes, bell peppers, melons, some basil, and there's different kinds of those. Sweet corn. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. So, but I mean, every year we're always changing. So we usually do. Those are like kind of the core ones, and then we'll try some stuff here and there and see what people like.
and all organic.
All organic, yeah, certified organic.
Okay, so part of the reason we're having this discussion is because you're going to be featured in a special coming up here on PBS with Chef Lydia Bastianich.
Yes.
Most people know her from the show Lydia's Kitchen. She does several others, including Homegrown Heroes. And what she features in that show is how you bring these veterans out to the farm and how those skills and that environment translate and is similar. What makes farming a different and I don't want to say easier, but a more likely transition for these
Yeah.
folks?
There's a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons is farming's very objective based. So most jobs in the world, 9 to 5, I can go home. I can. It's okay. In farming, there's not really that option sometimes. You're kind of you're at the mercy of nature and interacting with that, and how fast the vegetables grow and that kind of stuff. And it's hard to, you can get good at it, but you can never get perfect at it, if that makes sense. So there is no, it's objective based. So I have to get this done. If it doesn't get done, I'm not going home. So that's one part. Another part is, I think it's inherent with that kind of work that teamwork is absolutely essential, and it creates, hardship creates teamwork, or and that kind of stuff. So I was really attracted to that for the guys that I work with. We get really close because it's like that environment. It's that kind of stress. And then other things, it's just even like operationally, it's you're up super early, you meet in the morning, you talk about your mission for the day, you start to execute it. Things start coming from everywhere because that's the way farming is. A lot of different skills that you need to know, and then the plan never really goes the way you had planned in the morning. But being a soldier, that's essentially, you're used to that. That's what you do. It's like, you plan, you execute, and then you damage control.
And you figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, you figure out how to make it work. And so, in a lot of ways, I think that's really what farming is. And it's also equally, I would say it's equally kinetic, so you need to be physical, you need to work hard, you need to do labor, but it's also incredibly, it's a lot of intellect too. You have to know a lot of things, biology, business, economics, weather, ecology, all that kind of stuff. Like, you need to know some basic skills and all those things.
And there's something to be said about sticking your hands in the dirt and making something grow that
Oh yeah,
people
and
can
so
eat.
you can get a philosophical or spiritual level. It's for me as a medic, I saw a lot of death. A lot of guys go overseas and they do things that I guess they call like a moral injury. And so when you're growing food for one thing is creating life, and then feeding people is, what better thing is there to do for people? So
Exactly. Now, a lot like you, a lot of veterans, as you know, come back, and that transition is not easy. Does putting veterans in that environment help their psyche in terms of not only being able to adjust back to civilian life, but let's say they're dealing with a PTSD, which is a
Yeah.
common thing, or whatever they might be dealing with. Does having that environment help ease that burden for them a little bit?
Yeah, I believe so. So what I said, a lot of vets come back, and when you're overseas and traumatic things happen like that, you have that structure there to lean on. The guys are there with you. They experience something similar, and you deal with it whatever the way you deal with it. So when we farm with these guys, they're coming together with very similar experiences, and they're entering an environment that's very familiar to them, and they're also entering this kind of role in society where they're interacting with the public, which is good, so civilians, so they're getting used to them in that sense. But it's also in a very positive role. Like, no one can really argue that, your farmer isn't doing good for you. He's feeding you. I mean, it's not like you can't really have a political opinion on that, or else you wouldn't eat. So, I think it's in a lot of ways, it's a very holistic approach to kind of help these guys transition, for sure.
And I imagine they're pretty grateful to have the opportunity.
Oh yeah,
too.
absolutely, man. I mean, so like just even this cohort we went through, 3 of them ended up with jobs in ag, and one's in a horticulture college program. But they still stay in touch with me, and I know they communicate with each other, and so they're totally grateful.
Well, and it must be satisfying for you
Oh
too.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do anything else.
Now, how did you get connected with Chef Lydia?
That was The Office, to be honest. So yeah, I think she had heard about the label and kind of what we did, and then that project is uniquely tied to us. We work with the other vets too, but they kind of have their own thing going on. So this project is one of the organizations in collaboration with the other farm company I worked for. So she wanted to come check it out, and we brought her out and showed her around.
Well, how was that experience?
Being on TV and radio shows and things, as a soldier and a vet, you kind of are used to doing things behind the scenes and being humble about it. So it was interesting, going to be on TV and stuff. So, but it's good to get the story out. So that's why I do it.
Absolutely, and having the opportunity to meet the other farmers from around the country that do different things, whether it was the boutique honey farmers or the gal in Oakland that grows the urban farm there.
Totally.
And bringing all that stuff together and then sharing a meal must have been an amazing experience.
Yeah, so that's always awesome. That's what a big part of it this organization is we also do like yearly conferences, which are somewhat similar. Maybe more, more people, not quite as intimate, but we always look forward to that, the vets, and vets are 1% of the community and farmers are 1% of the community. So if you're a veteran farmer, you're 1% of the 1%, I guess you could say. So it's always good to get in a room with other people who think like you and have a lot of similar experiences. And those people that I've gone to the conferences and met, or the people that I met at that thing, like we still interact and talk about farming, and so that's always good. It's always healthy.
Well, as a guy who loves to eat, and I've watched this special already, so I know it looks really good, but you can't taste it on TV. How was it? How was that meal with all of these different pieces from everywhere?
It was
together?
Amazing, yeah. So there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I might be a little biased, but the tomatoes were my favorite. So, but she did this stuffed tomato with her heirlooms, and I'd never even thought of stuffing tomatoes, but it was on point. I was trying to get as much of it as I could.
Yeah, see, and I'm a guy, now granted, I had an Italian grandmother, similar to Chef Lydia, and ate a lot of, tomato-based foods, but I'm more of a guy, I wouldn't cook a whole tomato, I would rather eat it cold.
Yeah,
so that's a different experience.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's kind of a different
it's
experience.
It's actually really good, though, yeah.
What'd you think of her technique in the kitchen? I'm sure you got to watch some of that, too.
Actually, I didn't get to watch any of it, really,
No.
but yeah, unfortunately, but, the end product was amazing, so I have no doubt that she's very knowledgeable in what she does. So.
Indeed. Well, like I mentioned to you too, I've seen probably 100 episodes of Lydia's Kitchen, and I know she's pretty good at it, so
Yeah,
we will look
say the
forward
least.
to it. Yeah, and it's coming up December 16th at 2 p.m. on KVIE Channel 6 in
Sure you catch it.
Sacramento. Oh, absolutely, for sure. I already got the DVR set ready to go. Matt Smiley with the Farmer Veteran Coalition. Matt, appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming out.